morning.
We're back for another show, and we're going to do something a little different today, Karen. We're going to take live questions from people, from both social media and here. You're going to ask your questions, and nothing that we say is meant to diagnose or treat or replace your medical care.
No cures.
Check with your doc before taking any of our advice, and that's my disclaimer.
Even though I feel much better by following your regime.
Don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain. Use this for research purposes.
All right, so I tell you what, you probably need some paper, Karen. Do you need paper?
I have some paper over here.
Okay.
But I could use a pen.
Here, you use this pen right here, and I'm going to go right to Frederick from Sarasota, Florida, actually.
Florida, of course.
Are you there, Frederick?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Good morning, Dr. Berg.
Good morning.
First and foremost, I would like to thank you for taking my call and for everything you do, because you've been a mentor to me for the past 2 months. I was able to lose about 20 pounds in 2 months, so I'm very happy.
Great. That's awesome.
My question today is, I'm not quite done with my target weight, but I'm thinking ahead, and I wanted to know what kind of approach, as far as dietary approach, what should I do if I wanted to gain muscle mass and get a little bit bigger as far as muscles and all that.
That's always a question by a lot of people, like how do you do this, excuse me, intermittent fasting and keto without losing your muscle mass, because as you know, you start shrinking fat and you want to preserve the muscle and even grow the muscle. So I would recommend sticking with 2 meals, not 1 meal, and increasing your calories. Make sure you have enough sufficient protein, but not crazy too much. But the biggest factor is volume of exercise, like really keeping in your exercise and using heavy weights and using full body compound resistant type training. But you're going to have to increase the volume. You can't just do like a high intensity interval training workout once every 2 days. It's not going to do it. You need to literally, with weights, or you can even do it with body weight. With some people can do it, but you're going to have to really put some volume exercise, and that's going to help you increase the mass. A couple other things. You want to keep the stress really, really low and keep your sleep good. So those are the key factors, general factors that I would recommend. Thanks for your call. Let's go to Dave from Virginia. Are you there, Dave?
Hey, Dr. Berg.
Hey.
I just wanted to say I really enjoy your videos.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that.
My question is, I just wanted to know your amalgam fillings.
Yeah. Do you still... Go ahead.
Yes, I got 5 fillings a few years ago, and I just noticed my cognitive decline. Got some I got really bad. I wasn't sure if amalgam was contributing to that.
Okay. Well, let me just give you my 2 cents on amalgam fillings. We're talking about amalgam being a combination of different metals, including mercury. I had mine out. I thought I was going to experience a big difference. I didn't experience. Some people do, but it's also good not to have that mercury in your mouth. It's hard to know if that's causing it. It really is. There is a lot of data on people having infections in their teeth, or actually deep underneath the teeth. And so that could also create a lot of referral symptoms. So if you go to your dentist and they take an x-ray of the teeth and they can find like hidden infections, that would be something probably way more important than anything else to get that dealt with. I'm not saying getting a root canal, I'm just saying there's other ways to deal with that. But that can create a lot of hidden problems like arthritis in other parts of your body, and even heart problems, because these low level infection just kind of creeps up in everyone. The other thing that's interesting, I'm going to do a video on this, is that cancer tends to travel into areas of inflammation, and even inflammation in general can activate more cancer cells, because we're dealing with this chronic inflammatory condition. In fact, if people had like a tooth missing, for example, that was an area of an old injury, There's even been reports that cancer kind of travels into a pocket of the tooth, or even the needle tracings from a biopsy. So that's interesting. Old injuries and trauma and inflammation. So if someone has either a systemic inflammatory condition or they're filled with too much inflammation, I would do what you can to remove that inflammation, because it's just one more factor that you don't want in your body. And so how do you do that? One way is to keep your glucose normalized or lower, and that means cutting out carbs, and that is called the ketogenic diet, because that creates a lot of oxidation and inflammation. Then the other thing is fasting. Very, very important for inflammation. Vitamin D is essential. And let's say there is you've tried everything and it's not working, then there could be some hidden viral thing that's activated, like Epstein-Barr virus, in which case you'd want to take oregano oil and really do whatever you can to address stress. Because if there's a chronic stress, that can keep that thing active. And you just want to isolate where that's coming from. Is it a situation? Is it a person? And then deal with it as best as you can. Thanks, Dave. All right, looks like you're accumulating. You want to accumulate some more countries, Karen?
You want to take another call?
It's up to you.
I'll accumulate a few more countries.
Accumulate a few more countries. I'm going to go to Aaron from San Diego, California. Are you there, Aaron?
Yes, Dr. Berg, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Good, good. Kind of a different question, but I want to see how it complements the keto diet. I was wondering, what is your opinion on Dr. Hulda Clark? She was a doctor in the 70s and 80s and passed away in the early 90s. But her approach with health regarding zapping to kill viruses and bacteria, her approach with liver and kidney cleanses, different types of cleanses, but in particular, her approach with herbal remedies, and how does that either complement the keto diet, if it does?
Good question.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with her.
Yes, I studied some of her data, but not all of it, so I can't really comment on everything, but I will say that her herbal protocols are awesome, because she was dealing with, basically they're like natural antibiotics that get rid of underlying infection in the body. And I will say that a lot of people have like hidden chronic infections, and they don't know it. And here they have this arthritic issue, and they have this and that. They don't really connect the dots. So I really, really like the idea of using herbal remedies for that. What I had a problem with is that, and I used to do all sorts of herbal remedies, especially when I lived in San Diego. There's a lot of, that's kind of where we started, but I would take them for detox. And the problem is that you end up with an infection for 2 weeks. And that happened time and time and time again. So I don't use herbs to detoxify. That's not the right thing to do. What you want to do is strengthen the liver so the liver can detoxify, rather than try to take an herb and push something out. So, but for example, you can use black, they're called black walnut hulls, and that's a very powerful one I think she recommends. And clove and garlic, those are all amazing to kind of flush out these microbes, and they're natural. There's no side effects. So the key is starting off very low amounts and then gradually increasing it, because you don't want to create an immune reaction. What happens, you kill off a microbe, the microbe breaks open, and you have this endotoxin that comes out. Now your immune system goes bam, and you start having this histamine reaction. You get fatigue and mucus and tired. And so that's my 2 cents, and I'm sticking to it. But with the keto plan, I think it's great to add those. All right, what do we have coming through?
Those. I love clove and
Yes, you do.
all of those.
You do.
All those things. I'm just writing states and countries and things, because I haven't done that in a long time.
Okay. Anyone from Ecuador or below the equator?
If you're watching from Ecuador, please let me know, because I don't have that. Philippines, Brazil, usually I don't mention any states. So today, Ohio, Idaho, New York, London, New Hampshire, Texas, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, India, Netherlands, Minnesota, Zambia, And more will come,
Wow, that's
I'm
amazing.
sure.
That's awesome, Karen.
Yeah. Now here we have on Facebook, Colleen is asking, she was just in an awful accident about a week ago. And she had to have a fusion of some cervical spine. And she said she wants to know what you would suggest during her recovery so she doesn't gain fat and lose muscle.
Yeah, I did a couple videos on, guessing it's a car accident, and whiplash. I did some videos on what to do after she heals to a point where she can stand some pressure on the neck. But right now, she's in a state where she's recovering. They did fusion, so that must have been quite a surgery there. I think the best thing is to keep your diet squeaky clean. So you want to do fasting for sure, because that's going to speed up healing and drop inflammation. And then you want to keep your carbs down. There's some other things that you can do as well, as to increase the antioxidants in the body. That would be through leafy greens and salads. Also, one of the best natural anti-inflammatories that I recommend, it's called stinging nettle root. It works for inflammation and pain. The other thing for pain is chlorophyll. You can get that either in the wheatgrass juice powder or even the chlorophyll pearls. You can get that. That will decrease pain. I've experience with that. And vitamin D for pain for sure, Karen. I almost forgot about that one. Not that I ever talk about vitamin D.
Here.
But yeah, vitamin D is almost like the obvious thing. But yeah, those are the things that I would do. And then as you start to heal, watch my videos, because let's say, for example, you had a whiplash from the back and your neck went this way. Then you wouldn't want to stretch this way. You want to stretch the opposite way, versus a front end collision where your head's like this, because you create micro tears in the back part depending on the dynamics of what happened. So you don't want to exaggerate or put that person in the same injury. You want to do the opposite. Tons of videos on that. You can check it out on my YouTube under whiplash.
And there you have it. Okay, good. Now,
do we need a quiz?
oh,
Yeah, and just so you
We
guys
like
know,
quizzes.
we just we released the cooking channel, the recipe
yeah.
channel. You should check it out. If you go to YouTube, click under channels and then the cooking channel and sign up. Just subscribe, because we are going to release. Karen just made it yesterday. It is something I've been waiting for a long time. It's lasagna, keto friendly, and it is amazing taste to me. I'm thinking about it right now. It's in the fridge.
there's
I'm gonna
only
take
a
some of that.
little bit.
I know.
left.
She made this huge thing like this, and it's down to here now. I don't know who ate it.
Why?
It's so good. The noodles are amazing.
Well, wait, yeah. So go to Dr. Berg, Dr. Berg's YouTube channel, and then you will see a little tab. It says channels, and then you can find it there. And yes, and for people who have seen it and ask the question, our daughter Ollie it's a family affair now, and she helps us with some of the meal prep, and
You'll see the
you'll
tattoos
see her
on our hands.
tattoos. I have no idea what they mean. Everybody's asking us. And
Yeah, they have no meaning.
they have no meaning, basically. She just thought they were cool.
So should I give the quiz? Because before I forget, so they can start to answer.
Anyway,
it?
I wanted to say one more thing about the recipes. You'll see the lasagna video, but we're also going to do a video just on keto pasta.
Oh, keto
in
pasta.
general.
But here's the problem. I don't think any of our viewers like pasta.
I know.
So I don't think we should.
No
I don't
one
know if we
will
should do
want
that.
All right. Well, that could be the first quiz. Do you want a pasta alternative?
I would say yes. I was being sarcastic.
I'm being sarcastic.
There's two. This is very important, guys. And this will actually separate out people who are successful and they're not successful with keto. If you can answer these two questions correctly, then we know you're going to be successful with keto. And I'm not looking at anyone specifically, Steve. But here are the two questions. Number one, well, actually just one, no, it's one question. What are the two ways to lower insulin? What are the two main ways to lower insulin? Go ahead. Give us your answer right now, and this is going to really determine if you understand the keto plan or not.
Okay. There you go.
Because I want to just mention why I'm saying this, because I had someone call in and they said, keto doesn't work, I tried it, and you know what? They didn't know this question. They didn't know the answer. That's why they weren't successful.
2 ways to lower insulin.
Yeah. That is the goal of ketos, to lower insulin, by the way. Okay.
Okay, good. So now here's a question
Yeah.
from YouTube. Explain quickly the difference between a simple and a complex carbohydrate.
I did a video on this. So, simple carbohydrates are like sugar, refined sugar, things like that. And I'm not going to get into the saccharides and the disaccharides and all polysaccharides.
Too late, you just did.
Those are just different forms of sugar that different bonds. So you have glucose, and then you have lactose, and they connect and everything, and they fructose. So all you need to know really is the simple is the refined carbs. You want to avoid those. But complex carbs could also be grains. You want to avoid those. So don't go by complex or simple. Go by just eat vegetables. That's your acceptable carb. And the simple is the sugar. Stay away from those. Is that simple enough?
Good, that's good.
Is that a complex answer?
That was a simple answer. And then we have Todd from YouTube. He says, will liver damage prevent the production of ketones?
Sure, because that's where you make your ketones from your liver. So your ketone production is only as good as your liver, Karen. So,
Save the liver?
so if you have a fatty liver, how do you know if you have a fatty liver, Karen?
Well, a protruding belly is a good sign.
Just look down. If
Just
you can
look
see
down.
your belly, then you probably have a fatty liver. And then also if, well, I'm not going to get into the complexities, but the point is that you need to do keto, and eventually the liver will come back to normal, and it might take a while, but then all these different other things will work out better. Your thyroid will do better, your bile production will be better. There's a lot of things that dependent on the liver, Karen.
Well, that is good. Now, I want to ask a question that bears repeating right
Okay.
now. Generally, how does a keto diet that is low or no grains, no sugar, good vegetables, some protein and fat, how does eating this way build a strong immune system? Because, I mean, that's a huge quality of life point, really, when you think about it. Not getting sick, being healthy year-round, your kids being healthy year-round, even if they're going to school and other kids get sick. So this is a huge quality of life and even a financial point. What does keto and even intermittent fasting have to do with your immune system?
Every single risk factor from dying, mortality rates from the COVID-19, okay? Every single risk factor
Or
is...
any illness.
No, we're talking about the COVID-19.
I wasn't.
Because I have to start somewhere. I'm not going to
Okay.
get into... Because other viruses can, be a little bit different in the whole thing. So what happens is every single risk factor is related to the metabolic syndrome. And I'm talking about high blood pressure is number one, cardiovascular, obesity, diabetes, and even the lung conditions are affected as well, like asthma, for example. All these conditions are related to problems with higher insulin resistance. So there's this huge connection there. Also, there's another hormone that's also related called leptin. Leptin regulates your hunger, and if you're overweight, you're going to have because the fat cell makes leptin. So if you're overweight, you're going to have a lot more leptin, right? And that basically that makes you satisfied. But anything that's high and sustained for a long period of time, you lose that hormone, so it becomes resistant. So now you have high levels of leptin, but it doesn't work. So you're hungry all day long, and you are overweight, and it doesn't make sense. Well, leptin is also connected to your immune system more than a lot of other hormones. So you have the leptin connection, insulin connection. So what is keto? How does keto handle that? Well, first of all, that addresses this metabolic syndrome, that issue. It helps leptin resistance, insulin resistance, and it will decrease your risk tremendously. Not to mention if you do healthy keto with the nutrients, you got vitamin D, you got zinc, vitamin C. So yes, it's a huge factor. In fact, I don't even think the vitamins are going to work unless your diet is low carb and it's healthy. Because as you're obese, the vitamins don't really get absorbed. Like vitamin D, you're going to be low on vitamin D and zinc if you're obese and if you have these other conditions. So I mean, I can pretty much keep going on this, but I think
know
you got the
could
point.
keep going, and you know, there have been flu year in and year out for forever, and you know, right now people are watching this, but it is being recorded, so people will watch this far into the future when this particular situation is long over, but they're still needing to keep a strong and healthy body because these seasonal things will happen. And so I think it's important to discuss in general about the immune system.
Indeed, and not
We can talk
just-
more, but
not-
let's see, what do we got for
I'm
the...
just going to say, not just to avoid the flu, but perhaps how well you tolerate it once you get it. I got it. I feel healthy as can be. I'm intermittent fasting, keto.
There you go.
Many people say it's taken me a long, long time to recover, and I'm not suggesting that I have the same symptoms and reaction to it as everyone, but I feel fabulous in a short period of time, and I'm sure it's because I'm not overweight, I eat well, I follow your regime, and my guess is that my recovery, my spectacular recovery from it, is due to those factors where other people continue
Yeah,
to suffer.
you develop immunity by being exposed to a pathogen. You create your immunity. If you never expose anything, your immune system can't grow and become strong. So it's the exposure to that little bit of stress going through an infection. The key is the immune system. But I want to get these. We need to get these
Okay,
answers
well
to
now
these
we have to
questions
see
here.
answers to the questions. Ooh, Kuwait. Let's see.
The two ways
The
you
two
lower insulin.
ways: fasting and low carb. Fasting, getting rid of sugars. I think we talked a lot while people put those answers in. So let me
You look
back
at
up
them.
a little bit.
I'm going to go to Lynn. You keep looking. Hi, Lynn. Are you there from New Jersey?
Yes, I am.
Hi,
Hi,
Lynn.
how are you?
Hi, great. What's your question?
Real quick. I was on the keto diet from July to December. I went on a cruise, and I haven't stopped eating since then. You know, all the bad foods. So I'm trying to start up again, and my question to you is: should I start with the 2 or 3 meals a day, and then go back to 1 meal a day? Because I can do it without sugar and without carbs, but I have to start, I think, from the beginning.
Good
Does that
question, Lynn.
sound-
Very good question. Here's the thing about that. If you're starting from scratch, or if you kind of fall off the wagon, then you have to start over again. And you want to rip the Band-Aid, or do you want to do it slowly, right? There is going to be a period of being uncomfortable because you have to transition back to making these machinery that burn fat. And the way not to do it is to do it with a little more, like adding a little carb, because you're going to drag it out for like a week or two. The best thing to do is to, if you could, just go right to 1 meal and keep your carbs down, because then within probably 2 days you're going to be good. And then maybe what you could do is you could take some MCT oil while you're fasting, just to give your body ketones. So there's a crutch. You could add ketones, exogenous ketones or MCT oil, to provide those ketones to make your brain feel good as you do this. But I would jump back in and not and just rip the Band-Aid and get into fat burning. Realize that especially if you're new to this, which you're not, it's going to take like usually 3 days, and there's going to be a point where you're not going to crave. You're not going to be hungry. But the point is, like, you need to bring the carbs down. So thanks, Lynn. That was a good question. Karen.
Yes.
What do we have as answers?
So mostly people are saying lower your carbs and don't eat sugar, or there's one, fasting and exercise. We get a lot of answers on this.
Okay. So, Karen, the 2 ways. Lower your carbs, number 1. Okay? Lower your
Intermittent
carbs.
fasting.
I said lower your carbohydrates. That's number 1.
Well, I know, but I was giving number 2.
And yes, and then do lower your frequency of eating, which is intermittent fasting.
See, so I was right.
You're
So-
right. I mean,
Can you say that?
you're right. You're right, Karen. You're right again. Again. So that's the 2 things. So that's the simplicity.
It's
of it. If you
that
know
simple.
that, you can actually get
See
into
you later.
ketones. Yeah. So
We're
that's
done
like
here.
keep it simple. I have quite a few other questions But I want
Okay.
to. Do you have a question?
I do.
Yeah.
Up your alley here. Does cycling help regulation of hormones? Like cycling, like bicycling?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Why?
Because it's exercise, a form of exercise, and you're going to stimulate growth hormone. Growth hormone is the main anti-aging and fat-burning hormone. And there's 3 ways to stimulate it. One would be intense exercise, okay? But here's the thing. Cortisol will suppress growth hormone. So if you actually go for a marathon where you're sustained, it's intense, but it's sustained. There's no like, okay, relaxation, like intervals. Then that's going to counter some of that. So you want to do high intensity, give your body a chance to recover. And this is the key right here. Once you get your heart rate up, let it come all the way back down so you can do like a cycle. Don't like jog in place to keep, like anything sustained is bad for losing weight and growth hormone.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I was like the workout video queen for a while. Like I bought them all, like every program. And you know, when high intensity became a thing, a lot of these videos are like high intensity, okay, rest for 15 seconds.
Yeah, that is so bad.
But that might not be enough. That might be enough for someone who's already completely super fit. But most people who start these programs need quite a while to come back down. Could be 5 minutes, could be 10 minutes.
We had a recovery machine in our clinic, and I would test people. This blew me away. Like I thought they would just recover fast. No, they're like maintain higher pulse rate, and it just wasn't coming down. So I'm like, okay, so you're not ready for exercise because it's hard in the heart. But yeah, growth hormone, it's going to actually, it's also going to stimulate another hormone called glucagon, which is another fat-burning hormone. And yeah, did that answer that?
That answered that.
Okay, good. Let me give another question for people.
Okay.
What % of your vitamin D needs does diet give you? So out of all the vitamin D in your body, how much does your diet give you in percentage?
Versus a supplement or versus the sun?
That's right.
Okay.
Let's see if you get this one right, guys.
What percentage of vitamin D is produced by your diet?
Yeah, that's a good way of asking.
Or of the RDA, or
yeah, or just the amount in your in your body.
in your innards,
Yeah. Okay.
in your insides.
Okay, Diane, you're from Newport Beach, California, and you had a question about salt. What is that question?
I do. I first have to just thank you for completely changing the quality of my life.
Oh, that's great.
15 months ago, I was a mess. I had chronic fatigue and brain fog. And since doing your healthy keto plan for 15 months, it's improved 80%.
Wow, that's great.
And I'm very grateful. And so where I'm at now is I'm trying to get to OMAD, 1 meal a day, and I've got it down to a 4-hour window. And yesterday I wasn't hungry and I wanted to go further, but I felt weak, and it was like what I really needed was salt. So how do I regulate my salt? Because I went from 35 supplements 15 months ago, only down to electrolytes and vitamin D and
You're
So
breaking up a little
Diane,
bit.
you just broke up, but I think I know your question. I'm going to answer it right now, okay? When you do keto, the requirement for salt goes up. I'm not going to get into why, but you need more salt. So I would say a level teaspoon if you're not exercising. If you're sweating and exercising, you need more of that. In fact, a professional football player during practice could literally require 6 teaspoons of sugar. 6 teaspoons of salt on a given workout because the amount of sodium that they lose. But you also need also the chlorides as well. So salt is not just about sodium. Most of it's the chlorides, and you need that as well. So what's happening is you need this because without sodium, your muscles don't really work. Also, the nervous system works. There's something called the sodium potassium pump. And you have 50 billion of them in every single cell. And that your body's constantly requiring sodium potassium. So to keep your energy up, you need the salt and you need the potassium, back and forth. So anyway, that's great that you're doing very well. And salt and electrolytes, trace minerals, B vitamins are what you need when you do fasting. If you feel a little weak, then we know that you've reached your limit and you have to just kind of you eat and then you kind of work up to it so you can go a little bit longer. But I noticed that a lot of people are not having enough salt. But thanks for your question, Diane. Appreciate it. All right, what do we have, Karen? What percentage of vitamin D is made up from your diet?
Okay.
Karen?
Yes.
Can you answer the question?
Hi, Steve. Hey. Yes, I can. It's all over the map.
Okay.
Everything you can imagine, including someone saying, of course, it varies from person to person. Everything from 0% to 99%.
And what's your thought on that?
Well, it's very, very little. I would say 3%.
Okay. It's actually about 10%, which is kind of small.
Some people said 10%.
So you can, literally, it's almost impossible to achieve your vitamin D from diet. So you got to get out in the sun. So this leads me
or
to
take a supplement.
The next question, and before I take the call, because I want to keep these questions going, guys. How much vitamin D could you get by going out in the sun in the summer if you're close and you just have sun on your face and your hands? Could you get enough vitamin D in, yes or no? Okay.
What?
Let's see what they say.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see if I can go to Veronica from
so
Iowa. Are you
You're going to
there?
just need to read he said they're down, so you're just going to need to read the question.
Okay. Veronica, if you can hear me. I can't hear you, but you had a question about you recovered from COVID-19. Your thoughts on donating my antibodies? I think that's a great idea. I think it's great. I love the idea of antibodies from someone that recovered, but I do want to explain what antibodies are for people that don't know. You have this part of your immune system, these cells that have these little arms. Okay, they reach out and they can grab things. They're called receptors, and you can actually shed them. You can extend them. They can go out and grab different microbes and things like that. And so your immune system, once it's exposed to a virus, for example, it actually gets connected to it, and it overcomes the infection, and then it has a memory of that thing. So the next time that happens, you have these little arms that are ready to reach out and grab and, like a little handcuff, lock up this virus so it can't move.
It's actually fascinating.
Yeah, and there's different mechanisms. So antibodies basically kind of lock up the virus on the connector. So now it can't connect to your cells anymore, because viruses can't do any damage unless they get inside the cell. So if they're outside the cell, they just hang out to dry and they do nothing. It's called neutralization. So you're going to neutralize them, and they'll also have different mechanisms, but the main thing is they will protect you. So you have a lot of these guys sitting there, very specific. So like I'm talking hundreds of millions of different antibodies to pretty much anything that comes in there. And so that way you're ready for the next time. And you only get those antibodies by exposure. Now, I'm not going to get into vaccine or my opinion of vaccine right here, because I don't want to have this shut down. But vaccines, in theory, are there to artificially do the same thing. But that's all I'm going to say with that. But the antibodies, I know, the antibodies that are generated, you can get a test to see if you have antibodies to this virus, but it's then you're immune to it, and that means that you're protected. Good question. All right, do we have some questions coming in here?
Sure, of course.
How about the quiz answer?
All right. I was so engrossed with so someone is saying 20 minutes is enough. an hour. No, he was saying just with your hands, like if you're fully dressed like this, just your hands in your face exposed to the sun. So they're saying 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It depends what color your skin is, how much pigment in your skin. 20. I would say it's much longer than that. I mean, I would say if you're only going out and exposing your hands and your face to sun, you'd probably have to be out there for a couple of hours or...
Okay, so here's what happens. Your skin, the surface of your skin takes this wavelength from the sun and it converts it into vitamin D. And the face and the hands really only make up 5% of all the skin. So you would have to be out there for a very, very long time to get what you really need. So it's very insignificant if you're going out for 15 minutes, you're not going to get your vitamin D from your face and the hands. Now this especially applies between the months of November and March. In fact, it's virtually almost impossible to get your amount that you need during those months. If you are above a certain latitude, okay, above 37 degree latitude. Now what does that mean, Karen?
Up there.
And anything, if you look at the United States, anything above LA, it's 37 degrees latitude, north, at the northern hemisphere. If it's between the months of November and March, you're not going to get a lot of vitamin D from the sun simply because of the distance you are. Now, if you live by the equator, you're going to be good to go. But anyway.
So essentially, you have to look elsewhere during those months, especially for your vitamin D.
Yeah, you're going to have to supplement, or you're going to have to eat a lot of fish and cod liver oil. The other thing is, like, so you have a lot of things. You have the color of your skin. You have the age of your skin. You have the location. You have the season. There's a lot of factors that I'm going to get into with more quizzes here.
But you know, it's a good thing to know, because an individual can, because over the strength of his immune system or her immune system, just by ensuring that they get enough amount of vitamin D and exposure to the sun. And if you're making time to do that every day, like I know there are some times, especially in the summer, and we have a crazy schedule, but we fix our salad or whatever and eat it out in the sun. Wear a tank top instead of long sleeves, and just make sure that you're getting enough of your vitamin D. I think it's a good point.
Yes, and then I'm going to take a question, but I'm going to have another quiz for you guys. This is a true or false question. Can stress cause vitamin deficiencies? True or false?
Oh.
Okay, and then, hey, Tara, you're from Roanoke, Virginia, right down the street.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Nice to talk to you.
Hello, how are you?
Great. What was your question?
Okay, for a person who has breast cancer, my mom has HER2 new breast cancer, and her first treatment wiped her white blood cell count down very low to where she had an infection in her colon, and she had to get it surgically drained to keep the bowel from, I guess, going into her stomach, and she has an ileostomy. My question was, will your keto essential amino acids help her absorb protein better than the chicken and the eggs and the things that she's consuming? I saw your video on YouTube.
Okay, so
and I saw the percent.
So this is a really good question, Tara, because a lot of people don't know about the keto amino acids. There's a lot of research behind it, but it's a blend of certain amino acids that are all essential. Glutamate is not one of the essential ones, and that's the one that potentially could feed cancer. That's not in there. And so since this question came up too, like, well, I want to avoid glutamate, so how do I get my protein? Because it's in a lot of different things. So there is some data on just taking the amino acids. This is a good one to take. So yes, because it goes right in like a rocket ship. It gets absorbed because it's just your body doesn't have to break it down. So it's a really good thing, especially also if you're exercising and you're doing fitness, if you wanted to take a good amino acid. The cool thing about this that's different about other proteins is that you don't get hardly any waste, like a 1% waste. Most protein, even eggs, definitely meat, and chicken and meat, you're using some of that was for fuel, a good percentage, and as a waste product. So, for example, even eggs, which is the highest amount, 50% of that is going to either glucose, fuel, not repair, or waste. But this one, you get 99% of it just turning over into body tissue. So yeah, that would be a good thing to take. And also, this is really good for people that had gastric bypass because they need protein, but they have a hard time digesting it, and they don't want to have all this extra waste. This is also good for people with kidney weakness. Thanks, Tara.
Good question, right?
Yeah. So what do we have? True or false, Karen?
Everyone is saying true.
And the answer is?
True.
True, yes. When you go through stress, and this is something, we always talk about nutritional deficiencies, like, oh, you're just not eating enough of this or that. That's only one factor. Having stress in your life will deplete B vitamins big time, potassium, zinc, and especially vitamin D. Because if you look at what's behind that, high levels of cortisol will cause your vitamin D receptors to go down to like way down here. So now you can't absorb it. Well, guess what? You need vitamin D for your mood, for inflammation, for your immune system especially. So as we look at things to focus on if someone has a lowered immune system, there's nutritional deficiencies, there's your diet. I'm going to just tell you the stress factor is probably at the top of the list. So you want to, number one, isolate where exactly that stress is coming from. And then you want to do something to improve it as the most important thing, whether it's a situational or a personality. And I'm telling you, that will actually go a long way. It's very important. I don't probably emphasize it enough, but that alone could create a huge change. Because even like in practice, I would have people that would get sick, and I would talk to them. Every single one of these people, right before they got sick, they had a stress situation. Bam! So anyway, I wanted to point that out.
Well, someone did ask on social media what you recommended for stress. I mean, you've done a few videos on this, and there's a lot of different things that people can do for stress, but like you said, environment, it's kind of funny. We don't watch much TV or news, but sometimes videos or whatever, we're on the web a lot. And I thought, boy, some of these people look so much younger now. They just look better. They're home. They're not in that rat race of traffic. They're not in the pressures of their fellow employees.
Just their family. About ready to kill each
Well,
other.
some of them maybe they live alone. I don't know. But my point is that you do have areas of stress, and you know what they are. Largely, you know where you feel more stressed out, or with whom you feel more stressed out, or what time of day you feel more stressed out.
Maybe I shouldn't beat around the bush. Maybe I just tell them what I'm specifically talking about is people's stress and certain personalities, because people are around people that are just constantly bringing them down. You need to avoid those people because that can weaken your immune system.
And you've mentioned taking long walks.
Yes, not off of a short pier, but just long walks into the forest, into the woods.
In the woods.
Yeah, and that will also increase your immune system. And I did a video on forest bathing.
Yes.
So, bathing in the forest.
Now you're going to have to look because, I mean, that's such a great teaser right there, bathing in the woods. But yeah, there's a lot of ways. Have fun, play games, go for walks, ride your bike, do something different, do arts and crafts if you like that, take the time to read a good book. There's a million and one things that you can do to, you know what we should do? We should have a site where someone can add what they do just to de-stress.
I'll work on that, Karen.
Can you get on to
I'll
that?
get right on that right
Get
after
onto
I
that.
finish the 3 books that I'm writing. Okay, I want to mention something. we talk about the benefits of sun, right?
Yes.
People think it's just vitamin D, but there's other benefits of sun that go way beyond
Now
vitamin D.
you mentioned this earlier.
Yes.
Tell me.
Well, I did a video on it. And you get UV, for the immune system. UV is antiviral and antimicrobial, the UV radiation. Also, you get ultraviolet, infrared, now I just said ultraviolet, infrared waves, and that's good for inflammation and pain. And then the temperature from the sun and humidity decrease the risk factors of getting sick because they decrease viral loads of certain infections, specifically the coronaviruses and the flu. And this is why they are seasonal, Karen. There's some research, I released the video, that for every degree temperature and humidity goes up,
A certain percentage.
the infection rate goes down. So you're going to find that in the summer, things are going to clear up nicely. That'll give people just about enough time to fix their immune system.
Well, and it's, it's summer now, officially today.
Just started.
Today.
It just started.
In DC anyway. It's summer, and now is the time to really build the immune system.
That's a correct statement, Karen. And right after I take this call, I'm going to talk about another thing that I think people have never heard before.
And you're just going to read
Veronica, you probably can't hear me, but I can read your question. Oh, wait a second. You were the antibody question, so I already answered that.
You were the
Okay.
antibody question.
Let's go to Jaya from North Carolina. How can someone just clicked it off? You accidentally? Okay.
It disappeared, Jaya. I'm
That
so
person had a
sorry.
question about a wart. Okay.
Okay.
Warts usually are viral related, and here's what I found. When you do the keto and intermittent fasting, this is just reports. I haven't found any research on this, but people report back that their warts have fell off their body. Now, is that true for everyone? I have no idea, but you might want to try it and see what happens.
Couldn't hurt.
It couldn't kill you.
Couldn't hurt.
But this is what I wanted to mention, Karen. What is the purpose of the immune system?
Purpose of the immune system is to defend against enemy forces that enter your body.
Yeah, like microbes, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Did you realize, Karen, that there's another function of the immune system that rarely people know about? Do you want to know about it?
I would love to know about that.
Okay. You have wound healing. That's one thing. But the other thing that's really important is the immune system kills cancer cells and tumor cells. Did you know that?
I did not know
Yes. This is why when people do chemotherapy, it wipes out the immune system. It sets them up for getting the cancer again, secondary infections. So the immune system is not just for defense against invaders and pathogens, but it's there to prevent against the growth of cancer cells and tumors. So you have like the natural killer cells. They basically kill virus-infected cells as well as tumor cells. Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
So what does this mean in layperson's terms? It means that you need to strengthen your immune system to prevent against a lot of problems, Karen.
As a priority. I mean, it's not just like I want to lose weight. I have to change what I'm eating. It's really, and especially right now, it's a call to action. I mean, you need to evaluate what are you eating, what is your family eating, what are your friends eating, what is your lifestyle, and let's change it. Let's change it so that your immune system is stronger. You can't see your immune system.
You can't see it?
You can't see it.
You
So it's
open
like,
it up.
oh, I can see my hair. I know when I need to wash my hair. Oh, I can see a wart. Oh, I have to do something. But you don't see your immune system, but
You can feel it.
you can
with a
feel
fever,
it with a fever,
a cough,
with lethargy, with
mucus.
Getting sick, getting colds. I know some people, and they're sick 3 times, 4 times a year.
And
We don't get our family, we haven't gotten sick in years.
But we did get sick a lot growing up. And the thing is, like when you have it, as you get older, you know, when you establish more immunity, you shouldn't be sick
Like
as
kids.
frequent as kids.
Right.
But
Kids
it's-
will
but-
get sick.
But here's the other point that's important. It's okay for a kid to get sick multiple times. I mean, many times, because as soon as your child has a fever or cough, like, oh my gosh, I got to suppress it. No. When you start doing that, your duration of infection extends. So you want to let the body go through that infection to learn from experience and develop immunity. So, and there's a lot of things to do to minimize, but I think I need to do another video on that one point. I have another quiz, Karen.
Okay, here we go. I'm ready.
All right. So if you are obese,
Yes.
how much more vitamin D are you going to need versus someone who's not overweight?
Interesting.
Let's see if you guys get that one
Don't
correct.
Google. No Googling.
Hey, Veronica, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh.
Technology's a wonderful thing when it works, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. I'm a 66-year-old. I have had the virus, and obviously,
Oh my gosh.
blood center has contacted me, and they want my plasma. And what they want to do is extract my antibodies to make a serum that will help people who are more susceptible and are having a hard time getting over this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I saw your video this morning on antibodies, which was very good, by the way. So, how do you feel about this? I mean, I'm going through a period of uncertainty, and I asked the woman how many people they've contacted and how many people have agreed to do this, and she said very few because they're scared.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, oh, you know, the whole fear thing is it has just grasped our country, and that's tragic. But how do you feel about this procedure? You know, what's your opinion here?
Okay, so I guess I haven't thought about it enough to really give you an opinion, yes or no. I like the idea of doing this compared to other therapies that have additional toxicities involved. I won't mention that name, but I think you know what I'm talking about. But the antibody therapy seems to me as a good thing because you're giving someone the antibodies already. I don't know the procedure, I don't know who's involved, but that's as far as I can go because I don't have enough data. I'm sorry about that. But thanks for your question. That's a good question. Something I'll have to look into. All right, what do we have as the answer to this question, Karen?
Okay, so the question was, how much more vitamin D does an obese person need than a person who is not overweight?
Right.
And the answers are all over the map.
really?
20%, the same, double, 3 times, 60% more, 70% more, 5,000, 10,000. Ooh.
And the answer is?
The answer is someone on, I think it was Facebook or whomever, 3 times.
You need 3x. That's 300%.
Someone said that.
300% more than someone who's not overweight because the UV has to penetrate through some certain things and doesn't necessarily get connected. This also relates to people that are older
Why?
because the skin doesn't do the conversion as well because the skin is not like it was when you were like 18. So
No kidding.
if you're older or obese, you need 3 times as much vitamin D.
Wow.
Now also if your skin is darker, you need 3 times as much as well. It depends on how dark it is. The other point I want to make too is there's certain people that sunburn really fast. They don't need they will convert very fast. They can get enough vitamin D. People that don't sunburn and they can tan, they need a little more vitamin D. So really you have to look at all these little factors that are involved.
And what is considered a normal amount for a middle-aged person who's not old and not obese and not, you know, having
much vitamin D?
more pigment in their skin?
Well, the RDAs are like 600 IUs.
So that's so
Honestly,
interesting. So
I
you
think
have an
that's a joke.
RDA, but you have all these variables. How can you possibly come up with?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Karen, because now I have to answer that. First of all, I think the 600 is way too low for several reasons. And number 2, if you're using it as a therapy, a therapeutic thing like autoimmune problems or inflammatory conditions or like rheumatoid arthritis, for example, or blood pressure, then you need a lot more. The other thing is that there's a lot of things in our body that won't let us absorb even that. And that has to do with the digestive system. You have the colon, that's where it gets absorbed. So if there's damage, which a lot of people have, also there's genetic defects. They're called vitamin D receptor polymorphism, if you wanted to know. If you have that, and that's actually one of the reasons why certain people that develop type 1 diabetes, they're not getting enough vitamin D, and that can set them up for an immune reaction because they don't have the vitamin D to buffer that response. One thing, like in Pakistan, 70% of Pakistanians allowed to marry their cousin, and that can set them up for a genetic defect for vitamin D. So now they can't get the vitamin D.
And why is that?
It's a cultural thing.
No, why is that?
Don't ask me.
Why does it interfere? Why does that
because
interfere in vitamin D absorption?
Because what happens, if you have this baby that then now has this weakness within the genetics, there's a lot of different types of variations in the genes for vitamin D. Vitamin D is intimately connected with every immune cell. In fact, it's almost like a symbiotic relationship with your vitamin D as receptors that your immune cells can actually convert and make vitamin D from precursors and things like that. So it's not just
so it can be challenged in a variety of ways, including that one.
Yes. So there's a lot. I mean, it's just a fascinating topic.
Well, you know, the good thing about all of that is it's not just something that you have no control over.
Right.
There are so many variables, and if you understand, okay, this is my physical situation, according to that, I need to take more or less vitamin D, or I can have more exposure to the sun, or I should or I shouldn't. I mean, these are things that you then can do you can be cause over it. You can take control of that for yourself.
Especially, you know, if you have the knowledge, if you live above the 37th degree latitude, then you better be taking vitamin D between November and March. Hey, Kate, you're on the line. You're from Michigan. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Hi.
can. Thank you so much, Dr. Berg.
Sure. You had a question.
Yes, my question's regarding seed cycling. A doctor recommended it to me, chiropractor, and she said to eat pumpkin seeds and flax seeds for half the month, and then sesame seeds and sunflower seeds the other half of the month based on this moon cycle. And I just wondered if you had any knowledge of that and what you would recommend.
That's interesting you brought that up. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I heard a little bit about it, but not a lot. But it possibly could work because these different seeds have different effects with both androgens and estrogens. So try it out and see if it helps. It's an interesting concept. I will say that one of the things about women is that they have a lot more receptors in the uterus, ovaries, and breast tissue for estrogen. So the most important thing that I see is to avoid exposure environmentally to these hormones, like, you know, do organic as much as possible. Probably eliminate dairy if you have a problem with your menstrual cycle, because that's a lot of hormones, and definitely things that mimic estrogen, like the pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, heavy metal, country and western. Oh, she was listening. She was listening. And if you guys don't, if you haven't heard about our summit coming up in the end of August, you need to check that out because we're going to be doing it. It's going to be virtual. So that way,
everyone can come.
Yes, and so there's should be some buttons on our website all over the place, as well as the YouTube channel. And you should sign up. It's very affordable, but we're going to have some amazing speakers.
Free parking.
Yes, the parking, and also the airlines are going to be really cheap. It'll actually be
cheap
free
travel.
Because you could be watching from your home.
There will be a huge restroom availability. It's going to be great.
Awesome.
Now, there you have that. We're going to wrap up. I just wanted to say one thing. Someone mentioned if you can afford keto, you can do it.
Right, because carbs are so much cheaper.
Prepackaged food is more expensive than vegetables. You don't eat a ton of meat, which is probably the most expensive thing in the standard American diet. And you can find organic food at just about every grocery store now.
What happens if you add intermittent
And
fasting
once
to
you
that?
add intermittent fasting, you're eating less than you were before. So it's actually more affordable to do keto and intermittent fasting, and you can save up for that, something that you have been wanting for a while as soon as you get with the program.
The benefits health-wise, overall, there is no downside.
There's no downside.
So
You can't afford not to, because keto, this is how your body functions and heals. So for every day you're not eating this way, you're contributing to the ill health of your body. I hate to be blunt.
I think you
That
should.
was pretty
I
blunt,
think you should
wasn't it?
seriously consider it and think about it. And
Take a long
it's
time to think
it's a. You should possibly consider it, guys.
He's kidding. Do it. Start. Do it. Grow your body healthy. Save some money. And we'll see you next Friday.
Have a good one, guys.
Okay, bye.